this edition of Martha Monday. Since it is fall, it's got us all thinking about our fall recipes, our fall decor. You've probably bought a mum to put on your front porch. If you've got some fall decorations, you have hauled those out. And when we start thinking about what to cook for fall, we often think about soup. There's just something about the weather getting a little cooler and crisper that has us just longing and getting a hankering for some soup. Now, usually the challenge about making soup is, especially if it's got beans, that you have to think about it at least a day ahead, because those beans have to be soaked overnight if they're going to get soft enough to be able to cook. So that's why I love this particular recipe. It's called chicken tortilla soup, and it uses canned beans, so they don't have to soak the night before. So you can get your hungry for soup satisfied even if you don't think about it until mid-afternoon. Now, this recipe is one that I sort of tailored, made it my own many years ago. I don't even remember what magazine, but I was sitting in the beauty parlor waiting for my turn to get my hair cut, reading through a magazine, and there was a recipe for chicken tortilla soup. I sort of jotted down the ingredients on the back of a receipt, pulled it out later, and I've just modified it and changed it a little to make it my own. So it really is my own creation, sort of, but I sprungboard off of something else. So full disclosure, I don't even know which magazine or whoever to give credit for it, but I've changed it so much it's probably mine now anyway. So we're calling this maybe Laura's chicken tortilla soup. So I want to share with you the way that you make this. It's super easy and very delicious. It's also very low fat. So we're going to start off with 1 can of Great Northern beans. And of course, ladies, as always, I will put a link in the section below, the comments section, so that you can download your own copy of this recipe, so you can just follow along and watch. No need to be grabbing your own receipt out of your purse to write down those ingredients now. The Great Northern beans need to be rinsed and drained. So I've already done that ahead of time to save time on the video. They're in here. They're already nice and soft because they've been cooked ahead for us. So there's the Great Northern beans. The next item is a can of what they call Mexican chili beans. Now these have that the seasoning already added, so you do not want to rinse and drain these, because if you do, you will get rid of all the lovely flavoring. So we're gonna pour those in here, and all the seasoning. Use my little handy dandy skinny scraper from Pampered Chef to rake all that out of here and get all that deliciousness out of the way. So get that out of my can. Make sure I dig out all the beans as well as all the seasoning. So there is that one. The next item is a can of diced tomatoes. So these have no flavoring, they're just regular old diced tomatoes. I'm featuring a couple of Pampered Chef products today. I don't sell Pampered Chef, but I love their stuff so much that when I was using so many of these products, I just thought I would call attention to it. And so I'll put the link to my friend Lydia's Pampered Chef page if you would like to order any of these. But I love their can opener because rather than cutting and leaving you a sharp edge, it just sort of lifts off, breaks the little glued seal, and just makes for a nice, easy release. So I opened the other cans and I decided to wait to do this. When you sort of put it on there from the side, it grabs a hold. It's super easy to release that seal, and you'll just sort of feel it get just a little easier to turn when you've gotten all the way around. Then you sort of use the little grippers there, and it just simply lifts right off. Super, super, super easy. And then you've got this nice clean edge. So there's my diced tomatoes, and we're just going to dump those in as well. So I've got my 3 cans of items making up the bulk of that. So it is chicken tortilla soup, so as you guessed, the next item is 3 chicken breasts. So you're gonna want to cook these ahead of time. You can cook your chicken breast any way you want. You can sprinkle it with a little olive oil, douse it with a little olive oil, put whatever seasoning you want, cover with foil so it doesn't dry out, and put it in the oven and bake it. What I like to do for this recipe is a little trick I learned from my daughter Lydia. She likes to make what she calls salsa chicken. So she will dump a bunch of chicken breasts in her crock pot, use salsa. Yes, I just bought some store-bought salsa. I make my own homemade salsa, but for this I use the purchase to make it easier. And since I was just using a few chicken breasts, I only used about a half a can of that. I did a couple of extras to have for topping on a salad. But this is 3 chicken breasts, And I just put it in the crock pot on low and let it just sort of simmer all day. Smells delicious as it is cooking. There's nothing like coming in the door and having that wonderful smell of cooking chicken. The salsa just gives it an extra flavor. Like I said, you can use plain chicken breast, but I like to use the salsa chicken. If you cook up several chicken breasts in there, you can use the salsa chicken in burritos or tacos or on a salad, and you can use it in chicken tortilla soup, as we are going to do today. So I've got that all ready, chopped up. I really didn't have to do much work. It was so fork tender, I could just about cut it with a fork. So that's all ready to go. I have the chicken in there, baked that ahead of time. Next, it calls for 5 cloves of garlic. I love garlic. I love the way it smells. Sometimes I throw in a couple of extra garlic cloves, more than what it calls for. This is another item that I love from Pampered Chef, their garlic press. It just works better than any other press I've ever been able to find on the market. You just put it in there. You don't have to clean the outside off. It just sort of pushes the garlic through. It's powerful when you squeeze down, and it's super easy. Best of all, it comes with this handy dandy little brush for cleaning it. You can just push it through the little holes and it attaches to stay together with it. So I wanted to call your attention to that one as well. So I've already got my garlic cloves ready. I'm just gonna rake them into my soup pot as well. The next item it calls for is half a teaspoon of cumin. You do not want to leave this out. It is wonderful and adds just a delicious flavor. Only half a teaspoon, so I'm gonna mix that in there. And then it calls for some Italian seasoning. Much to my chagrin, I got out my Italian seasoning and realized I was almost out. So I'm just gonna take the lid off and dump in what I have left. It's just to season to taste. There's no measuring. I just usually douse it on there. Since I'm out of that virtually, I just decided to grab some oregano. So I'm just gonna sprinkle in a little oregano here and call that good. But do use the Italian seasoning when you make it, and that is what I will put on the recipe. Then it always calls for a little pepper. My husband always says you can't have enough pepper on your eggs or in any recipe. He loves his pepper, so I'll just put some of that in. Again, I'm not measuring, I'm just doing it. The recipe in the little magazine, as I recall, called for 3 bouillon cubes. And I just think it's a little healthier to use chicken broth. So I am using purchased chicken broth, and this container has 32 ounces. The recipe calls for 3 bouillon cubes and then to add 3 cans of water. So I usually just use one of these cans to measure out the water, but I went ahead and did that ahead of time, allowing for the amount of chicken broth that I'm adding. So I always do the chicken broth, 32 ounces of that, and then I add in a couple more cups of water to have enough soup base as is needed. Now here's what I usually do with my extra 2 cans. I usually do it under the spigot so that I can rinse out and get the rest of the flavoring. So I didn't want to be running back and forth from the sink, so I've measured the water out ahead of time, and I'm sort of going to simulate what I do when I'm doing this in my own kitchen. So I put the water in there, and I just sort of give it a little swish around, and then I have gotten out all of my seasoning, or virtually all of my seasoning, because I don't want to miss any of it. And I see there's a little there on the bottom, so I'm just gonna use that to get all of that wonderful seasoning out of my chili beans. And then I'll just use the rest of it even in my can of tomatoes. So get all of that little tomato juice out there as well. So there's that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put in the chicken broth. And this is really, let me give that a little shake up first, just to make sure it's nice and mixed up. That is it, ladies. You've got everything in there. It's super quick. You saw how fast it went together. It's probably gonna take me as long to pour the chicken broth out as it did to put everything else in. So I'll put this in here, give it all a quick stir. I just wait till it's all in and stir it up nicely. It's a little thin looking or clear when it first goes together, but like all soups, as they start to simmer and cook down, it will cook down just a little bit and get more thick. I have always found that this soup seems to be better the next day even than the first day, or if you just simmer it longer, it cooks down even more. I'd let it simmer for best taste at least an hour, but if you do it real low, you can even do it a little longer than that. It is a low-fat recipe. You saw we've got beans and vegetables, some spices, chicken broth, and just chicken breast, so it's very healthy. If you want to make it not so healthy and maybe a little more delicious when you serve it, you can add a dollop of sour cream. You can put that out and let your guests or your family add whatever they want. Sour cream, diced or shredded cheese, some crackers or some tortilla chips. It's really just a great fall and winter recipe. Of course, we love soup at our house year round, but I hope you'll give it a try. It's pretty easy to put together. It also freezes very well. So when I make this up, now that Kevin and I are empty nesters, I like to make it ahead, we'll eat it, and then I'll get out one of my little Pyrex containers that also come with the lid, and it just freezes up very nicely. I label that, and then I just love knowing I've got a recipe in the freezer for later. So that's my chicken tortilla soup. I will put the link to that below so that you can download your own copy. And let me know, leave me a comment below and let me know what is your favorite soup to make in the fall and winter for your family. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Laura McFarland. This is Cross My Heart Ministry. If you're not yet a subscriber, what are you waiting for? It's absolutely free, and then you'll get a notification when we post a new video. You won't miss a single one. We do these Martha Mondays 2 or 3 times a month with something fun and practical and what we hope is helpful for you managing your home and keeping your family fed. But then on Fridays, we do what is really my passion. It's presenting some teaching from the Word of God to spur you on to be that mature woman of God that He's calling all of us to be. So I hope you'll stay tuned. I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll come back on Friday to listen to our weekly teaching. Thanks so much. Have a great week and stay warm and keep eating some soup to do that. Thank you for watching.